Hey guys, so it's me, Nicolette Mashile, also known as The Financial Bunny. Welcome to The Financial Bunny TV. I'm so sorry guys, I know I've been away. I have been diagnosed with some neurological disease that is just straining me on a daily basis. Like every day I wake up and I am in pain and I'm in agony, and I literally have to take medication for me to even just be alive and like kicking. So I am so sorry. I know that a lot of things have been like not done. I have not been recording videos. I have not been recording the podcast. I have not been sharing anything on the personal finance space. It's really because I've just been, when you're just not in a good space health-wise, and I just have no spirit or to do anything, if that makes any sense. But I am back. We are going through different types of treatment simply because the treatment I was on was not working and we had to change treatment. And anyway, I'm actually coming from acupuncture today. This is my first time doing acupuncture. As I said, I've got a nerve condition. So basically the condition that I have is that somewhere down the line in my life, either from trauma or from actual injury or from infection, my nerves got damaged. And now my nerves are sending the wrong messages to my brain to say, ouch, it's sore here, or ouch, it's sore here, or ouch, it's sore here, even though there is no actual trauma or injury to that place. So anyway, I did acupuncture today. It was quite an interesting procedure, and I'll do it again for the next couple of weeks to see if that process is going to work a little bit better. But anyway, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to tell you guys, do what I say, not what I do. Because what I do is sometimes, it does not matter how much financial education you can have. When it comes to money, it plays with your emotions, right? I'll tell you guys a little bit of a story. So I know that some of you may have noticed that I put up one of my apartments for sale. So I needed to get a cash injection because I was starting 3 different businesses this year, and all of those businesses needed a cash injection. And all of us know that property is not a liquid asset. What does that mean? It means that it is one of the most difficult assets to turn from being the asset formation of it being brick and mortar or property into actual cash. Now, I've always known that, right? I work in the personal finance space. I've always understood this notion that property is not the easiest asset class to be able to turn into cash. However, I still thought this was the best way for me to find some sort of cash reserves in my investments. So I went for selling a property. Now, on average, it takes like 6 months to sell a property in South Africa. So I thought, I'm not worried. I have a following. People are going to find it. I'm going to post it. Pam Golding is going to post it. My friends are going to post it. Somebody is eventually going to buy this house. And let me tell you, within 2 weeks of listing, somebody did show interest in buying the house. They signed the offer to purchase and they were ready to buy the house. Fine. So after they signed the offer to purchase, because I'm the seller, I then need to choose the transferring attorneys, right? So you know that as the seller, you are the one who chooses your transferring attorneys who are going to help you transfer this title deed into the new buyer's name. Whether they're buying through the bank or they're buying themselves, your attorneys are going to help them in this process. So basically, they're helping you to help them. So they're transferring from you and they're transferring into their name, right? Not a problem. So I call my transferring lawyers. We start getting the ball rolling. They say to me, okay, we need the offer to purchase, a signed copy with all of the clauses, the terms and conditions. I'm like, okay, good shot. Send it to them. I realize again that my buyers did not actually edit the suspensive clause. They said they'll buy it any terms and condition and any from any bank and at any term. I'm like, they're making the same mistake that I made a couple of years ago, but it's fine. Maybe they're in good standing, and you know what? They're looking for any options from all of the banks. All right, fine, that's not a problem. So I noticed that they're quite an elderly couple that are buying the house and they're doing it as a joint bond. And I was like, okay, well, good shot. This is actually a good customer. It should be very easy for them to get a bond, right? Okay, not a problem, sign. my transferring attorney start that process. You know the process, if you've bought a home, one of the best processes that you'll ever go through is when the lawyers keep sending you updates almost every single day, or whenever something happens or something changes, if someone sends their documents, then you know that the progress is actually happening. It's called a progress, basically, progress of selling of whatever the house's address is, right? So anyway, so they start that process. I send all of my documents. I actually even started worrying about where the title deed of that house was actually. Started digging into my documents, found the title deed, put it into my car so that it's ready at all times. If they say to me, progress report this morning, seller to bring title deed, I want to have that title deed in my car and ready to ship, right? So I was ready. Why? Because in my head, I had already spent some of this money, because in my head, I was like, oh, I'm going to pay for this, I'm going to pay for this, and then I'm going to use it to build this and build that. So I had already had a full budget. Look, it wasn't a very sinister budget. I was not going to splurge on anything. It was really, really money that I needed for certain things that I needed to do, right? Okay, sharp. But now I've hinged my entire futuristic plan on this house being sold. And I guess maybe because it got picked up so quickly, I thought, okay, it's going to sell very quickly. Okay, sharp, not a problem. We had a date of them securing a bond, I think, of mid-July or something like that. Mid-July is getting closer. There's nothing being said. I sent the real estate agent a message. Hello, babes. What's happening with your customers? He's like, no, still on track. They've just been very slow in, sending their documents. They're doing it drip for drab. One day it's one payslip, the next day is this payslip. I'm like, okay, no problem. I send an email to my transferring attorneys. They're like, no, don't worry. This happens quite a lot. I'm like, well, it ain't happen when I'm the buyer. When I'm the buyer, I'm so excited. I give all my documents literally in that first day. When they say send everything, I'm ready with everything. I'll drop everything to send all my documents. Why are other people so slow? I was like, okay, maybe they don't want the house. Maybe they don't want the house. I was starting to have doubts. So anyway, the deadline comes. They miss the deadline. Okay, sharp. The offer to purchase has an extension clause in it, right? So that automatically goes into action to say they've got a further 14 days to try and secure this bond. Guys, the 14 days is now also getting closer, and I'm still hearing nothing. Send I remember sending the real estate agent a message on a weekend, and I'm like, babes, what is happening here? I need to get clarity, because you know what? I actually can find other ways to be able to withdraw money from this thing. At this point, I have not explored anything. Anyway, I decide, you know what? Actually, let me just make a move. So I called my banker. I said, listen, we need to have a meeting, because actually I need to get money out of one of my properties, or at least some of my properties, whether it is a readvancement from you guys, a rebonding of a property that has already been paid up, or some option. I need an option, because I need to get money out of this, because I've actually kind of put these plans into motion, and now some of them need that money to be paid, because invoices are now being issued by the suppliers, because I've put this thing into motion. As I said, do what I say, not what I do, right? So anyway, the same day I finish having this conversation with my banker, I get a call to say, hey, Nicolette, good news. Bank has actually given an approval in principle, an AIP. I'm like, yes, thank you, Father God. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Because obviously I was a little bit worried about bonding a property that is already paid off. I was also worried a little bit about, if they're going to give me a readvancement. So basically a readvancement is they look at how much you've paid so far on one of your properties, if it's a bond, and then that difference between how much the bond was actually registered for, subtract what is still outstanding. That amount is the amount that you essentially have paid already. That is money they're willing to readvance again to you, right? So I was like, oh, thank goodness, because geez, these things all sound so confusing, because the next day, when the banker actually sent me the documents to fill out, they were like, I think there were 3 sets of documents, and I was like, no, guys, I don't want to do this. This just seems daunting, and it seems like a lot of documents. And I was very worried about being setback. Like, I even kept asking him, does this mean that my bond is gonna reset to 20 years again? What does this mean? And he was like, no, it doesn't mean that, but the installment will obviously increase because now the outstanding balance will increase because you are taking back that money. I was like, oh, okay, all right. So anyway, now we're sitting, AIP has been issued by one of the banks. So what it's waiting for is the bank to come and value the property and conclude whether the property is worth the amount that these guys have asked for as a bond. Okay, sharp. So I'm like, okay, maybe that's going to take 2 or 3 days. Guys, I got a bombshell drop of it today. In fact, as I'm doing this video, I had just listened to a voice note that had come through. But before I tell you what the bombshell was, before I get into that, the reason why I wanted to do this video is because I was sitting there thinking, hey, you know, these ones, the way they're struggling to just get a bond, are they even going to be able to afford the transfer fees? Because that's the other thing that nobody talks about, right? We don't talk enough about the additional costs that come with buying a property. It's not simply about just securing that bond from the bank. There is all of these other fees that you still need to pay. And in some instances, you may find that the bank is not willing to even finance as little as the initiation fee. They want you to pay it up front simply because the terms, your credit scoring or your affordability does not give them that leeway or that gap to be able to do that for you. For some banks, they're willing to give 110% or 120%. That additional 20% that they give you is for you to be able to fund all of these other things, right? Except that it's folded obviously into your loan. So it's very important to understand that. If a bank says to you they're only going to give you 80% of the home loan, it means that you need to come up with a 20% down payment. Usually we use the word down payment and deposit very synonymously, which they mean the same thing. The difference often is that a deposit mainly sometimes a very proactive payment where I already know I've got 100,000 Rand deposit that I'm going to put towards the house so that I can borrow less from the bank. But if it's a down payment that the bank requires, basically, that is when the bank says, look, based on your affordability and your credit status, we can only fund 80% of this. Or based even on the price of the house, we don't think the house is worth 500,000. But if you are willing to pay 500,000, you need to come up with the 20% that we are not willing to fund. So that's more like the down payment that the bank is expecting you to put down before they can actually put down their 80%. So they're saying, come together with us, in partnership with us, and let's buy this house for you together, right? That's basically what the bank is actually saying. So those types of things are also very much dependent either on your credit status, your affordability, or sometimes the property is just not worth what the seller is asking for, but the bank is saying, look, we don't mind doing it, but you need to come up with the rest of the money. So it's very important to remember that there are additional fees that you are going to pay. And I get this question a lot where people are like, yo, Nicolette, I didn't plan for the additional fees. I didn't plan for the transfer fees. I didn't plan for the bond registration fees. Or I've only planned for the transfer fees, but I didn't, or the lawyer's transfer fees, but I didn't make a plan for the bond registration fees. So it's very important to remember that there's going to be those two sets, especially if you are financing the house through a lender. You're going to get what is called the transfer fees, which is what the attorneys, my attorneys as the seller, I'm going to send you those attorneys, and those attorneys are going to charge you those transferring fees. This is to lodge at the deeds office, right? And to transfer the deed into your name. It is an expertise that they charge for. There is a table that kind of guides them in terms of how much they can charge for in accordance to how much the purchase price of a house is. There's also the transfer levy if the house is more than R1 million. Then, of course, on the other side, if you are financing this, and it's going to be bonded, it means that there is going to be what is called a bond registration fees. Then the bank has got its own set of lawyers, and they are going to charge you bond registration fees. Then there is what is called an initiation fee, and basically your initiation fee is that amount of money to start the bond account going, to initiate the bond account, right? Then another fee that's not really included in here is what we call the municipal rates fee. So there are companies that help you in moving the account from the seller's name into your name, because once the property gets transferred into your name, you now become responsible for the municipal rates and taxes. So that's also a very, very important one to remember. And you really want to do this as quickly as possible as you are actually in the process of getting all of the transfers done. So try and get these companies, usually the real estate agency or the transferring lawyers have their own suppliers and partners when it comes to these things. So they will send you like a list of people that you can call who can assist you with this. I recommend highly that you do it there and then, because like for instance, I've got a property now that I still have not received a City of Johannesburg letter, which means I have to travel all the way to the CBD, and you know the CBD's roads are cracking. I mean, I just don't know. I don't know if I can drive to the CBD. I don't know if it's worth it to pay my municipal rates because the roads in the CBD are cracking. But in my defense, I have put somebody on it to go and actually transfer that property into my name now. But it just costs a little bit more now that I've taken so long, and I'm sure the account has accumulated quite high fees. You know, I'm very worried they're going to start shutting down, you know, the water and electricity. No, but they can't shut down the electricity because I pay that through my levy statement. So at least that won't get shut down. But obviously, City of Johannesburg is expecting me to pay my rates and taxes, right? So I need to pay that. So I would get that facilitated as quickly as possible. So this is actually the big part of the video. It was that I wanted to remind you guys that there are additional fees. Anyway, let me tell you about the bombshell that came in. Get a voice note from the real estate agent today, and he's like, sweetie, obviously, I don't have good news. And this is literally how he speaks. I absolutely love him because his voice always makes me so happy. Even when he's delivering bad news, he is so friendly. He's like, oh, Nicolette, I've just got this terrible news for you. It seems like, you know, these people were not kosher, man, in their dealings, in the stuff that... And I was like, you know what? When I heard the voice note, I already knew. I was like, oh, well, whatever. It's okay. You know what? We're going to make other plans. But it's just that there was a nagging feeling that something is off here. Something is off. Because when they were supposed to be putting in their documents, it was like, this document is missing, that document is missing, this document is missing. That. And I'm like, how are you missing the payslip? How are you missing the payslip? Explain to me how you are missing the payslip. But in any case, so this video is to remind you of two things. Do what I say, not what I do, because when it comes to money, all of our emotions are high and we spend money we don't have, and it's tax season right now. So when you did your tax return and you saw that minus however much amount of money which is supposed to be a refund, and you already started spending that money, stop it. Don't be like Nicolette. In fact, there's one of those, because immediately SARS will audit you, okay? SARS will audit you immediately. And now you must submit documents, which you should have, because how are you filling out your tax return? Which I did have, which is fine, right? And then the second thing not to do, to remember, is that if you are going to be buying a house or selling a house, know the process, but if you are going to be buying a house, remember there are the additional fees that come with purchasing a house. It's not just about securing the bond. And then, what's the last thing? I can't remember what the last thing is. So I'm going to leave this video here because it's becoming longer than it needs to be. I will see you guys on the next one. Mwah. Oh, please do remember, none of my videos constitute as financial advice. If you are looking for financial advice, please speak to somebody who's certified and registered with the FSCA. Guys, this disease even gives me brain fog. I tried to remember what I was saying and I can't remember. Anyway, bye guys.